Then a voice came from heaven. I've glorified it and will glorify it again. John 12 verse 28b. Hearing the voice of God. Let us highlight something small from this. When the voice of God spoke to Jesus here, the voice said, I have glorified it and I will glorify it again. If you look at verse 29, the crowd that was there and heard it said, it had thundered. Others said, an angel had spoken to him. Jesus said, this voice was for your benefit, not mine. This voice was for your benefit, not mine. Now is a time for judgment on this world. Now the prince of this world will be driven out. Hey. But when I'm lifted up, I will draw all men to myself. Let us look something here. The voice of God. The moment the voice of God is made clear to you, and you can be able to harvest the sound bites of the voice of God with the clarity, the voice of God carries glory. I have glorified it and will glorify it again. Key number one is glorification. Jesus was saying, glorify your name, Father. So the voice of God releases the energy of supernatural glory. Do you remember when we were speaking about Moses in Genesis 3 and verse 29b? He was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. So the voice of God, when you hear it, the first thing that voice releases in your life is glory, glorification, and a second chance for further glorification. If you look here, when the crowd heard, they said it had thundered. The voice of God releases thunder vibrations. The people who were there and heard the voice, they interpreted it as thunder. So when you shall hear the voice of God, you walk with thundering vibration. That is conquest, triumphant dominion, authority. They said that was thundering, but imagine it was just a voice. So you cannot hear the voice of God and then you walk with the spirit of being subdued and overwhelmed by the systems of contradiction. No. The voice of God comes as a thunder to you. So you carry the voice of God, will release in your atmosphere, in your life applications, the dimension of thunder. Number 3, others said an angel had spoken to him. And it's just a voice that was telling Jesus, I've glorified your name, my name, and I will glorify it again. Imagine such a simple statement. I have glorified it and I will glorify it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 9-word sentence. But they are saying an angel has spoken to him. So meaning The voice of God releases angelic energies in your life. That's why you can hear they were saying when they looked at Stephen, the intently, they said that his face looked like the face of an angel. When you hear the voice of God, you command angelic dimensions, angelic frequencies, angelic vibrations. I love that. And we must invest. Even if it will mean we build an altar by a sacrifice of hearing the voice of God. I don't know whether you can come to that level, that you can go and make an offering and tell man of God, this offering I'm making, I want to build an altar of the voice of God. Let God speak to me. Whatever God will speak to you, don't define what God should say to you. Allow him to speak to you his will. Oh, the voice of God. You cannot remain the same again. I wish we could be hungry enough for the voice of God, not in terms of the text, but in terms of audible voice. You hear him, he is speaking, and he is speaking, and you can hear him. That is God, my Father, my Lord, speaking to me. Very sweet. Not even in dreams and visions. This is vivid, audible, admissible and permissible voice into our natural ears. You hear. Then he says, Jesus said, this voice was for your benefit, not mine. Why? He is saying, now is a time for judgment on this world. Now the prince of the world will be driven out. Did you hear how Jesus said? He said, did you hear that voice? It was not for me. It was for your advantage. And then he went ahead to define that benefit. And he defined that benefit as the time for judgment of the world. When you hear the voice of God, the world in you gets judged, because the world cannot host the voice of God. The carnal self ends. The foreign nature ends. The voice of God judges the world system in you to allow the supernatural system to function in you. Something else he said, now the prince of this world will be driven out. That voice, it was sending deliverance power. Now the prince of this world will be driven out. The moment you hear the voice of God, that means any Satan or a demon or a genie or a principality or a dark kingdom entities that are in your life, spiritual husband, spiritual wife, incubus, succubus, strong man, queen of heaven, give them whatever names you will give them. But the moment you hear the voice of God, they are driven out by that voice. There is no black entity and agent can continue to dwell in a place vibrating with the energy of the voice of God. How was this voice of God activated? It is through prayer, through the prayer of the purpose of God. If you look at verse 27, John 12:27, now my heart is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, it is for this reason, for this very reason I came to this world. So he went again and he said, what? Glorify your name. So one is prayer according to the will of God. Prayer according to the will of God. A prayer that is geared towards a purpose. Jesus said, this is the reason why I came. And then he said, Father, glorify your name. The next thing is the name of the Lord. Prayer in accordance with the purpose of God and the name